So this is the Daniel Smith 24 half-pan hand-poured watercolour set. And I'm opening it here, and it comes with 2 paint boxes, one that's empty with 24 half pans that you can actually squeeze the paint in, and also one set that actually has the hand poured watercolours, which I absolutely love. So it comes with this leaflet here, and it explains all about the colours. It's really, really useful. Of course, you don't get all of these colours here, but the colours that come in the set are brilliant. You can't ask for more, really. So it gives you sort of information about granulation and whether it's opaque or transparent. It's so helpful. So here are the colours in the set. So you've got lots and lots of choices of blues and greens and yellows, reds and browns. And you get this bonus box here as well, which is brilliant. So you could actually add your other colours that you may have. It doesn't have to be Daniel Smith colours, but you can squeeze them in there as well. So it's quite handy. So this is the other box with all the hand poured paints. I'm just opening up the box here, and it's a lightweight metal tin. And opening up here, you've got plenty of places to mix your paints. It comes with a plastic sort of colour chart here, which is really, really useful. But just take a look at those beautiful colours. The shine on them shows you that they are moist because they've been hand poured. So literally, I'll demonstrate later, but you just dip your brush in, and it's like dipping your brush into freshly squeezed paint. And I always usually squeeze out paint from a tube into a pan. So I've always got access to creamy paint. This way, you don't have to do that. So this is the buff titanium, and I'm using the size 8 PanArt brush, which I'll talk about later. It's one of my favourite brushes. But you can see there with the buff titanium how strong it is on the left-hand side where I've added more paint. I've just lightened it on the right-hand side. You get plenty of pigment, and I do find buff titanium such a useful colour. So my next colour is Hansa Yellow Light. Beautiful colour. And I'm just diluting it here on the left with water. But you can see there's plenty of pigment on both those colours there. This is Quinacridone Gold. Again, such another useful colour. Beautiful colour. And you can see you get so much colour there just by dipping your brush in. So I'm just adding a little bit more with the brush to the right hand side so you can see the colour intensity that you can get there. So my next colour will be the Hansa Yellow Deep. So it's a beautiful sunny yellow here. And again, you get lovely rich colour. And I find this colour really useful as well. So it's great to have literally 3 useful yellows there. The next colour is Pyrrol Scarlet, which is like a cadmium red, and it's a stunning colour. I'm just going to dilute this. It's always good to do your own swatches, even though you've got that sort of plastic sort of copy there. It's really nice to actually see the colours, you know, on watercolour paper, and I'm actually using a watercolour sketchbook. So I'm just adding now a little bit of permanent alizarin crimson. So it's a lovely dark sort of warm pink. Really great for flower painting. And I'm just adding a little bit more dark there, and you can see how rich that dark is there. So the next colour is the Quinacridone Rose, which is a lovely, pretty pink, little bit cooler, very useful for flower painting. And what's really nice doing these swatches is you can see the light, medium and dark values of the colour as well. So I'm just getting a little bit more paint there, and just to add some dark into that pink. Next is, of course, my favourite colour of all time is the Ultramarine Blue, and it is just such a useful colour. Just getting a little bit more of that blue there, just to make it dark on the right hand side. You can see how strong that colour is. So this is a little bit of Cerulean Blue Chromium. You can see it's so different from the Ultramarine. The Ultramarine's a lot warmer. This is cooler, and I'm just diluting that there. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about warm and cool colours, I will put a link in the description below of a tutorial I made all about the subject. So this next colour is Phthalo Blue Green shade. And it is a very vibrant blue and makes the most stunning greens as well. So it's a really useful colour. So I'm just adding a little bit more cerulean there just to show you how dark it can be and how much paint you can get from these pans. Doing the same with the phthalo blue. The next shade is Cobalt Turquoise. So we're almost going into the shades of green here. So it's like a bluey green. So just adding a little bit more of this delicious colour and just putting it on the right hand side. You can see how much intensity you can get there, painting that damp into damp. So the final colour on this row is Phthalo Green Blue shade. So it's almost like a Viridian, a really useful colour, especially for making, painting the sea and things like that. So it's really useful. So hand pouring paints is incredibly labour intensive, but it does offer the purest form of professional watercolour half pans. And the Daniel Smith half pans re-wet really quickly and easily, as you can see by me just painting this sort of colour swatches here. And that's why I just love this set. And I have had this set now for nearly 6 months, and I have been replacing the half pans either with tube paint, or I've been buying the Daniel Smith hand poured half pans to replace the pans that have run out. And I can tell you it was the Ultramarine, Cerulean, Burnt Sienna, Hansa Yellow Deep, Quinacridone Gold and the Hansa Yellow Light. So it's quite interesting. And also the Jane's Grey, which I am mixing now. So instead of a Payne's Grey, we've got a Jane's Grey, which is a mix of Ultramarine and Burnt Sienna. And I use this colour combination so much. So it's really useful to have literally a pan with the colours already mixed. Now this was done for the artist Jane Blundell, and I will put more about how they made this colour for the artist Jane Blundell in the description below. It is a very interesting read. So the next colours are all a sort of various browns. So this is raw umber, which is almost like a greeny kind of brown, very natural looking, great for landscape painting. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of that creamy dark there. It took me a little bit longer to get that going, actually. Some of the colours it really lifted easily. I'm not quite sure why that was. So the next colour is Burnt Umber, which I usually use as an alternative to Burnt Sienna. So it's a lovely sort of darker, warmer brown here. So you can see it's such a useful colour. Again, you could mix the ultramarine with burnt umber instead of the burnt sienna to make that lovely sort of Jane's Grey colour. So my next colour here is burnt sienna. It never disappoints, this colour. It's so useful for sort of painting so many different shades, especially obviously a brown shade, but mixing greys and warming up sort of yellows, etc. So really, really useful colour. So my next colour is Quinacridone Burnt Orange, a colour that I'm not that familiar with, but you can see it's not unlike Burnt Sienna, and I'd almost use it as an alternative as well. So I've run out of my Burnt Sienna, I can use some of this. It's slightly more orange, as you can see. So it looks darker in the pan, but when you actually paint it on the paper, it's a little bit lighter. So I'm trying to work at that a little bit as well, just to get that lovely rich colour, and you can see it doesn't disappoint. So the next colour is Indian Red. So you can see it's a rich sort of reddy brown. It's really creamy. I've got so much paint on my brush there, and you can see I can dilute just by dipping my brush in. The next colour is Goethite Brown Ochre. It's almost like a yellow ochre but slightly darker. So we're going into our earthy yellows here. So it's quite a nice colour. As you can see, you can darken it up there. And on the right hand side you've got a good lovely sort of light and dark versions. Now this is the yellow ochre, a little bit more yellow as you can see from the brown ochre there. Beautiful colour, yellow ochre, and it's very similar to raw sienna light, which is directly beneath it, and I tend to go to either one of those, raw sienna being a little bit more transparent. The next colour is Undersea Green, which is a gorgeous natural looking green there. You can see you've got some lovely dark versions. This is Perylene green, a really lovely dark green, and finally sap green, which I use quite a lot. It's got a real sort of mid-range warm green here. Very useful for landscapes and flower painting. So here are all the colours here, and you can see how vibrant and beautiful they are. And you've got a good range, as I said earlier, of greens, yellows, browns, pinks, reds, blues, and a grey. So here's a close-up of the colours here. And it's really useful, as I said, to do swatches. So I really recommend this set for a great idea for a Christmas present. So why don't you treat yourself, or to someone you know who loves watercolour painting? So I just recommend these watercolour papers. What they have in common is they're all 100% cotton and of different sort of qualities. Arches, in the UK anyway, is the most expensive of all the papers I've got here. And as you can see, it's a watercolour block. So while it's on the block, it keeps your paper from warping too much. And this is one of my latest tutorials here. So you can either buy Arches, or I also recommend Daler Rowney's Langton Prestige pad. This is a gummed pad, and it's got lovely textured papers. And what I normally do is I usually take it off the pad and stick it to a board. So as you can see, it's 100% cotton there. So the next pad, which I use a lot, is Saunders Waterford cold pressed watercolour paper. It's a great all-rounder. It stops your paints from drying out too fast, and it's so lovely to use. It comes in hot press, cold press and rough. And you can get the blocks in various different sizes, but you can also buy these papers in single sheet form as well. So I really recommend these PanArt mop brushes. I've got the size 12 and 8. I've been using them a lot. And as you can see here, this is the large mop brush. You can really load your brush and it still has a beautiful point, as you can see. And they're good value brushes as well. And you can buy them from Ken Bromley Art Supplies. And I'll put a link for Ken Bromley Art Supplies in the description below. They are a UK-based company, but I know they deliver to the US, Canada and Europe, etc. So as you can see here, this is the size 8, and you get lovely sort of marks here. You really sort of carries lots of paint. You get some dry brush effects there as well. It has been well used and well loved. If you want to splash out a little bit more, I use round brushes, black velvet brushes in various sizes, and they're made by Silverbrush. And they are beautiful brushes. They've got lovely points. And this at the bottom there is a size 2. I've got a size 4, 6 and 10, a great sort of starter set. And I also use a flat 1-inch brush, which is here, and it is a gorgeous brush, and I've used this so much and it's like it's new. So I really recommend these if you want to splash out a little bit. Treat yourself. You don't have to buy all of those brushes, maybe just one, and just see what you think. You won't be sorry. They are such beautiful brushes. So this is the size 10, and it's got a great holding capacity and a beautiful point. It's kind of my worker brush. So I paint a lot of my painting using this brush or my size 8. I've recently bought this size 6 brush, and look at that for the fine lines, but also it carries lots of paint as well. I always say to my students and to my online audience, always load your brush. You have plenty of paint. And I love a brush that holds lots of paint but also has a fine point as well. So this is the size 4. It's actually got a little bit worn out. I've used it so much. I love sort of painting sort of stems and sort of twigs and small branches with it as well. It's a really versatile brush. And of course the size 2, which I'm using there, even finer details using this brush. This is PanArt's Reservoir brush. It's a brush I've been using for a little while, and what's really special about it is it's got this sort of round sort of size 8 brush, but also you've got a rigger coming through it. So the bottom part holds all the liquid, and you've got that beautiful fine point where you can make lovely long thin lines, but you can also use the whole of the brush to paint sort of larger marks going to very, very thin lines, which is what I'm doing here. So it's a very versatile brush. It does take a little bit of practice, but it is worth it. What I've noticed about the PanArt brushes especially is the quality of the handles. They haven't worn out at all, and I really like holding them as well. They feel really special and more expensive than what they cost actually. So if you're starting out, you may want to get these PanArt brushes, or if you want to treat yourself even more, the black velvet brushes, and get a good selection of those, and they are available on Amazon. And on my Patreon membership, you can now gift a watercolour membership. So you'll get access to over 500 watercolour tutorials, with many of them with a downloadable outline sketch, and 180 plus exclusive tutorials. With all of these videos, you will get line drawings, a supplies list, a reference photo link, and a copy of the finished painting. More details about my membership can be found in the description below. And with some of the tutorials, you can actually get access to a step-by-step downloadable PDF document. And you will get access to progress photographs and, of course, a full list of materials. But as you can see, with each of the progress photographs, I give you a step-by-step instructions as well. So you may find that a really useful tool alongside the step-by-step video. If you have any questions about these watercolour gift ideas, please put them in the comments section below. And if you'd like to share your gift ideas, please put those in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. Happy painting. Bye for now.